So me and Henry are gonna change the oil and filters in my truck. We're gonna do that now. I'll walk you guys through the process. Fuel filter. I'm gonna change the oil and the oil filter. We're gonna do that hopefully pretty quickly. Okay, so here's the engine bay. The fuel filter is in my engine in this 2012 Ram 2500 6.7 turbo diesel. It's gonna be right there inside this housing. So I'm gonna have to go underneath my intake. Gonna have to loosen this right here, this fuel release, this pressure release right here. Loosen that, drain out a little bit of fuel from this canister. Then we're gonna take this lid off, counterclockwise, lefty-loosey, and we're gonna take the fuel filter out of there. So we're catching the fuel right now from the canister. We're draining it and catching it into our catch pan. I want you guys to see, if you can, there's a hose that comes off the canister. Right there. You can see it dripping from the hose. That's attached to the canister, and when we turn that valve up top, it releases all the fuel that's in that little fuel filter canister out. And we're gonna catch it into our pan, not onto the ground. All right, so we're gonna go and remove the cap. I've got my 1.1/8" socket down there hanging tight. I'm gonna prop the phone up on the air intake here and a control box, something like that. All right, we're gonna see if we can get this thing off with just a ratchet. The access is super minimal. It's gonna be difficult. Bingo. All right, lefty-loosey, counterclockwise in this case. Hopefully not strip this plastic. All right, we're making a little bit of progress. It is on there really tight. Oh, by socket. Gonna have to go pick that up off the ground. All right, that's gonna rotate off by hand. And I am totally fine to close off the fuel pressure release now, or the excess fuel drain. It has a Phillips head inside this plastic cap right here, or sometimes if you can just use your hands to loosen and tighten it. Now that I've got the cap loosened, I can take it off by hand. Let's see if it's good and empty. No, it's not. Dripping some fuel. Okay. You guys can see I've got all sorts of fuel in there. Now this is a diesel engine, so that's diesel fuel. There's probably like a solid $2 of fuel in there that we just dumped into our catch pan. We're gonna lift up. Straight up. Oh my gosh, look at that. And I'm trying to let it drain out. Okay. And we're gonna put that. We're gonna look at that. That is pretty funky. All right. I believe that one has served a long life. This is the first time that I've changed it since I've gotten this truck. So that looks terrible. Yeah. All right, so check this out. We've got some instructions here, and you're probably wondering, what is a new one supposed to look like? Not that, probably more like this. You all can see the distinct difference. This one has had a long life of filtering debris and junk out of fuel. This one is brand new. You want that box, Koopy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have it. You can go play with it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Load it up with rocks. One thing I want to point out here, guys, is that there's an O-ring on the lid. Actually, it seals the lid to the base of the fuel filter canister. And you can tell that mine stayed on. So we're gonna have to take that off because we're sent a new one. There's the O-ring right there. I'm just gonna grab a pick, like a little screwdriver or something, take that off and get the new one on. And we're going in, just gonna grab it and pull it off. Bingo, there's the old one. Perfectly blurry. That one. And we've got the new one. What's the difference? Hopefully nothing, except this one is brand new and has not lived a long life sitting inside diesel fuel. So it's gonna go right back onto the canister. Careful not to rip it or damage it. Try not to catch it on anything sharp. And it's just like a rubber band, so you're gonna have to trickily set it on there. And I'm gonna feel all the way around because there is a groove at the bottom of the threads that it's supposed to seat in. And it feels like it's fully seated. And we're ready for our new filter. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop that in. Goes in, I'm just gonna seat it firmly down. And it's in and good. Throw the lid on. And get that hand tight. All right, and I'm gonna finish tighten that with my hand, and I'm gonna grab the socket, and I'm gonna tighten it down to 30.5 newtons, except if my torque wrench doesn't, actually I do think I have newtons on my torque wrench, Newton meters, but I'd have to look that up to convert that to foot-pounds. In other words, for those of you who don't know, there's a certain measure of how firm we're supposed to tighten this down. And I have a tool to help me measure as I start to tighten it down, make sure we get it to the exact torque. You coming up to help, Coop? Uh-oh. Come on. You can go on up.
Okay.
Up, up, up. Yeah, just fix it.
Okay.
Good job. Nice work. Oh yeah, that's your favorite right there, the sharp hook. All right, good job. I think you fixed it. Say good job. Show me a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay. All right, say bye everyone.
Bye.
Say bye.
Bye.
All right, so the instructions call to torque down to 22.5 foot-pounds, 30.5 Newton meters of torque. Got out the torque wrench here, a little wobble extension, and I started to try to wiggle it in there, and it would not. I don't care to make it fit today. We're just talking about a fuel filter housing cap here. This is nothing critical. I'm going to tighten this down to roughly good and tight. All right, to satisfactory levels of tightness. And then we're going to check for fuel leaking. And I'm putting exactly, wait for it. Yep, right there. That is 22.5 pounds of torque at 1 foot extension on my lever. I was measured it with the old torque meter. All right, so now we're gonna go back to the truck. Throw the key in it. And we're gonna wait for it to fire up. So the truck's got an electronic fuel pump. And as soon as, I'm gonna maybe turn it on and off a couple of times. And maybe one more time. And then I'm gonna crank it up. And it's gonna take a second to fill that whole canister with fuel. And I'm not gonna let it crank for a super long time. That'll wear out my starter motor. And then I'm gonna let it turn back on. And off and on. And hopefully we'll get something this go round. There we go. And now, while I run it for the first little bit, it might run a little rough until that canister gets all the air drained out of it. I'm pretty sure that we got it already, but it's tight. Got it on there. Let's go down, check for fuel leaks. Nope, no fuel leaking. We are good to go. All right, guys, on to the next item. Quick dinner break. Breakfast for dinner. Banana waffles, bacon, peaches. Miss Subtle. All right, we're on to the oil now. I've already pulled the drain plug on the bottom of the oil pan. It just took a 3/8 inch square, like just the end of the ratchet. Loosen that up. We've got most of it drained out, and it's gonna keep dripping. All right, now onto the oil filter. So I'm on the passenger side of the truck. I'm gonna go into the wheel well. I'm gonna sneak beside my wheel liner. I'm gonna go in, and there we are. There is my oil filter. It is behind the wheel well liner, but I'm gonna go ahead and lefty loosey that off, and we'll pull it out and let it drain oil. But I'm gonna put a drip pan under this side here so that any oil that drips out of there can go into drain pan and not the ground. We're gonna loosen that off. It's gonna start dripping. Oh good, no trips. And right about here is where I put myself in a sticky situation. As I remove the oil filter, I've got one hand slipped through the access of the wheel well liner. I probably should have just taken the wheel well liner off, or also on my pickup truck, I can access the oil filter from underneath the truck with a straight shot. I have kind of longer arms, so I could have reached up in there and just removed it from underneath the ground, which is contradictory to what most of the internet forums and other YouTube videos show you. And matter of fact, I've already bought the other oil filter cap tool to pull this thing out sideways without leaking oil, and I'll show you guys that in a second. But you're going to see that my one hand is stuck, and I cannot reach my other hand through the wheel well liner, and boom, I just dropped the oil filter right there on the ground. Made a big mess. Nailed it. We just dropped that sucker straight out of there. So I'm going to be using Shell's Rotella 15W40 full synthetic diesel truck oil. That's what my truck calls for. I've got my Fleet Guard filter here. This is the brand who makes the filters for Cummins, and I've got it pre-filled of oil. Here's the filter cap that I was talking about. I bought it on Amazon for $10. It's just a plastic piece that threads into the top of the filter. When I try to get the filter through the wheel well liner, I have no luck without smashing that thing to pieces and smashing my hands to pieces. So I found the best way to do it is just to get underneath the truck and reach straight up. All right, guys, I'm running out of daylight real quick. I'm going to, so we've got the oil drained and the new filter put in. I actually found the easiest way to get that filter in is I had a straight shot with long arms. I could go straight under the truck and reach up to the oil filter housing. Screwed it right on from laying on the ground on the back. And so we're gonna replace the crankcase ventilation filter. This big box thing is hiding underneath the valve cover. We're gonna zip off the 8 or 10 bolts that hold it on, and we're gonna swap that out real quick. All right, zippity doo dah. We got all the bolts off. Let's go ahead and pull off the valve cover. We've got the old filter here, and that just pulls right up. And it's pretty heavy. It's gonna have some oil in it from the crankcase pressure, blowing some oil in there. We'd have to bust this open and see how dirty it is, but you can see those filters are gray black, pretty yucky. Gonna go ahead and yeet that one. And then I've got the new one here. Around. I'm gonna check the housing. I might go ahead and wipe the gasket, trying not to get any of the junk back into the inside of this filter area. Might just clean that up a bit. I know everybody loves a flashlight video, but it's getting dark. Shoot. And I messed that gasket up just a little bit right there. Make sure that gasket stays seated in this groove all the way across here. Good enough for me. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the gasket back in. Sit it in there, or the filter back in. Sit it in. Press firmly. Give it a good pound. All right, it's probably ample. Go ahead and drop this down. Stick the valve cover down. I guess that's really not the valve cover. I don't know. I'll have to look that up later. And then we're going to throw the bolts back on. Don't forget that the stud goes in this back left corner right there, because once we get that bad boy tightened, this electrical harness is going to go right back on there. All right, so I'm going to go through and put all the bolts back in, and we'll get this thing tightened, filled back up with oil. Gulp, 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 gulp. I'm going to finish this job up by filling the engine with 3 gallons of oil, and then I'm going to check that by using the dipstick. And the oil level should fall between the low mark and the high mark in the hashed area of the dipstick. If you need to top it off, you'll want to do that now, and then be sure that you check the oil level after a little bit of driving. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and if you enjoyed the video, then click the like button, and also hit the subscribe button, and comment, and let me know what other videos you all might like to see in the future. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and enjoy some bloopers.